What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Sonic Movie Show, the only show about Sonic news, and Sonic movie news. My name is Ethan, and with me here to fight the Horde is my friend Devin.
I've reached their... Fuck, I messed it up. I was trying to do a cool voice with it.
To be
I've
fair,
researched
when I
this
said...
myself for many years. There you go.
Oh, okay. Who said that? Just the weird old
It was
bad
the
guy?
weird... Yeah, the weird bad guy. I've
Okay.
researched this myself for many years. And this is the dubbed version.
Right. We watched for your viewing pleasure today the 2008 direct-to-DVD film OneChanbara, the movie. Now, previously we had its sequel accidentally on here because when I know how I made this mistake. So, folks, I have a gigantic spreadsheet list of every video game movie ever made, including some instances of a two-part OVA that's technically one movie, or a four-part miniseries, but it's presented in its totality as a movie, so to speak. And I found this partial research through Wikipedia because they have a pretty good list of every video game movie ever made, and this movie was on it. The sequel was not, but in clicking either one's Wikipedia page, it goes to the first one. So I probably saw the second one was posted on there, but not the first. Or maybe I thought that they were two versions of the same movie because both links go to the same page.
And it doesn't help that when you Google it too, it's not very clear either.
Yeah, not at all.
Because we originally had a YouTube link that we found, and I was like, I think this is the first one, but it didn't say Vortex. I looked it up on Amazon just to be safe. I'm like, is it on here? And it kept showing Vortex, and there was 3 different movies when all labeled the same. And
Which
I'm like,
is funny
this is
because
weird.
there's only 2, unless one.
Yeah,
of
there's
dubbed
3,
and
and I'm
subbed.
like, I don't know, and it wasn't very clear. The descriptions are all the same, cast is all the same, and the YouTube, I started watching it. We found if you you can find a 480p version of it, and I was getting nauseous within the first 3 minutes. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna look again, just because we looked that one night off air here, trying to find links for it, because when we get into the weeds a little bit with these video game movies, the more obscure ones, some of them are really hard to find.
It on Pirate Bay. Not that I would torrent, but it's not even on there. You know what I mean? People that do steal movies can't even find it.
But on Vudu, it's listed. It was free. That's the only reason I even tried it. It was free with ads, and it had sorry, not Vudu. It's Tubi, whatever.
Tubi.
All the names. 4-letter streaming service. I went on there and it was free with ads, and I'm like, okay, I watched the first 3 minutes on YouTube. Let me see if this is the same. And it was, but it was labeled as Vortex. So that's why I texted you. I was like, watch this one. It's better visual quality. It is dubbed, which kind of, I guess, it could suck if you're not.
I've made my statement on dubbing in the past, and this is a good example of, if the dub's not a good quality, then it makes the writing seem worse. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, so we watched it.
We'll get into that, I think, in our review.
I have a feeling though, people got the intention that we were watching the first one regardless if we knew there was 2 or not.
I did tweet it out too, and that was before that was earlier in the day, before I even looked up any of this stuff. And I grabbed the first poster, which was the correct poster, the Japanese poster.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, that's what I was looking at. And that's when I started to be like, wait a minute, Vortex. But I remember us saying the word Vortex explicitly, and I thought it was a subtitle. But then I'm like, when you're on Wikipedia, where it's confusing, it briefly mentions Vortex is the sequel or whatever it said, or maybe it wasn't Wikipedia, IMDb, wherever it was. And I'm like, that's when I really started connecting the dots. But yeah, very confusing. This isn't the second one, so if you're confused, sorry.
And one day we might do the second one. I mean, one day I'd like to say we do all of the ones on the list. So yes, we would eventually do them at that point.
We're locked in then for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean we have even
and
if
there's
we
ones
just
that,
did
there's
episodes
ones that still
on
come
movies,
out
we would have
every
doubled.
And there's ones that come out every year that we don't always see either. So it's
right.
This is getting longer.
Right.
It isn't like the Chronicles of Diesel where he maybe does 2 movies, maybe.
Right. Well,
We caught up.
We did.
Well, almost. But
so this video game is titled, the video game series is titled OneChanbara, which is a portmanteau of two Japanese words, Oni-chan, which is bigger, older sister, and could be also interpreted as a mature woman, and Chanbara,
like mommy, but like in a kind of more sexual way. Like,
no,
she's a mommy. No,
because mom is a different word than sister. You know what I mean?
Or I guess mature woman, I guess could, I'm saying if you call a mature woman a mommy,
Okay. It's portmanteau, Oni-chan, and Chanbara. I forgot what the Chanbara was. It literally just slipped my mind just now. But yes, there are two Japanese words, and that's why it's still written that way in English. It's a series on 360. There was a Wii game, and then there's been like a PS4 game and like a remaster collection or whatever. That Origins remaster of 1 and 2, which were on PS2, so it started on PS2, is on PlayStation Plus, like Premiere Extra, whatever it is. And like I downloaded it, but I didn't have time to play it to start. So I really don't know anything about it besides the cover art is what made me feel like this would be a really dumb and funny movie to have potentially on the list. I'm not sure if this is one that was randomly picked for our pool, or if it was one I'm like, this is important. I doubt it was important because I don't think I would have picked it out of a lineup and said, let's do it. But it was my last
Prince of Persia and then this film actually
right. They're
the pinnacle of video game movies.
I've never played the series. I imagine you've never heard of it until we did this.
Right. No, you're
and I
100%
only know of it
correct.
From one of the PS4 games being on PlayStation Now back in the day. When I was scrolling through there, I'm like, this is weird. And then that name stuck in my head, and then when I saw that it was a movie on the list, I'm like, oh, why? I've never heard of this before. But apparently in the games, it's exactly what this movie is. It's like, I don't know if it's exactly Dynasty Warriors about like just effortlessly cutting through dudes and it's just about a swarm of zombies, or if it's more like a Grasshopper Manufacturer Suda51 action game that's like weirdly stylistic, and not that great of an action game, but there's a lot going for it, or I don't know. They keep making them. They're very niche, obviously, but they sell enough that they keep making them, and they made one on the Wii, and it sold enough to make another one. This type of game. So, like I said, this came out direct to DVD 2008. Now,
great year.
This being my movie that I picked on our giraffe list, my last movie, I'd like to give my thoughts first, but I'm extremely curious what you thought about this movie. So I'm just going to say, just off the top, when I picked this movie, I was like, this is my last pick, and out of the ones remaining, and I don't remember exactly which ones were remaining.
You took a flyer on it.
I was like, this could be a very, very funny movie for what it is. I'm thinking about DOA Dead or Alive and how I looked at the premise of that video game and thought a movie that handles it in the year that movie came out is probably very, very bad and extremely sexist, whatever. Maybe the film is sexist in ways that isn't exactly what I thought it would be sexist in, but that DOA movie was incredibly goofy. It knew what it was, and we ended up giving that a B. That's a B on our ranking tier list. You know what I mean? So that was what I was hoping for, was a movie like that. Now, I don't think it's that, but I don't think it's as bad as what it actually is. What this movie is not a B ranked tier movie, but a B movie. Very clearly direct to DVD, extremely low budget. Yeah. I mean, there's a few instances where you can see the outdoor in the wilderness scenes just looks like whatever backyard they could find to film in. It's not manicured in any way in which it would look good. It's not lit in any way, you know what I mean, that could look good. Stuff like how the props look extremely fake, how they're handled. The fact that the tattoo on her arm is a sticker. It's not even a temporary tattoo. That's a sticker. Yeah. You can see the shiny
It's not even drawn on.
outline.
Like, even if it was drawn on, it probably would have looked even a little bit more realistic than the sticker.
fact that
It was pretty funny with that.
there's like 5 characters and
Yeah,
probably 2 dozen extras that are just constantly being rotated because you don't need
the
100 zombies.
zombies. Yeah,
That's a lot of
yeah,
budget to just hire all those people there and makeup on them. Um, this movie to me was a better than I expected, but lower than I hoped for B movie that wasn't as sexualized. It almost seemed a little bit ashamed that that's the premise. Again, I haven't played the games, but I've seen the key art. And I
yeah.
know
It's a
Japan is
bikini
horny for
girl.
anime girls.
It's
Yeah,
bikini girl,
with a
right? Like
cowboy hat on
that's
with a samurai sword, with a
okay.
katana. Um, and so like seeing that, I'm like, I imagine the games are hornier, especially with camera angles and whatnot, than what this movie is. So I was actually surprised at how modest it kind of almost seemed. It was almost not even acknowledged. Besides, you can just see with your eyes.
Yeah,
So
and it's almost to the
overall,
point. I was gonna say, almost to the point with that. It's like it's a combination of I don't know if it's like a fear of it or more of just like I feel like if you're gonna go with that direction, you might as well just go with it. And it felt very like half, like I don't.
yeah,
We know this is kind of
well, like
weird,
DOA
but also
went
we're
with it.
afraid to just embrace it. But then there's
Yeah.
times when they're like, yeah, I guess
It almost seemed like
she's
they were
wearing her
afraid to
bikini now.
subject their actresses to that as well.
Right, right,
Um,
right.
yeah, I mean, one of them was in a schoolgirl outfit, which is sexualized to some people. You know what I mean? At least the immature nature of it, literally being young.
She that
Um,
character reminded me a lot of the Kill Bill character in the first Kill Bill, I think, if I remember correctly, who also had like a mace kind of flail hammer thing
oh, that
that she
character
was
as
swinging
well.
around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When there was the 100 go whatever warriors. Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie's not nearly as good as Kill Bill Volume 1, but it is a fun film. That's what I'll say. There's plenty more I can talk about as we kind of go through the movie, but that's my openers. Better than expected, worse than I hoped. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, going in like obviously we're doing this fantasy video game movie draft. But at the end of the day, and I've said it on other episodes, like I'd rather all the movies be fun and at least like yeah, fun to watch, maybe solid for majority of them. I figured some of these are going to be since we haven't heard of many of these, and hard to find that they probably have very low budgets. Probably don't even have a production company that cares enough to put it on a streaming service. So going in with that, I'm like, okay, these aren't going to be like the next best thing, a hidden gem, so to speak.
Right.
But yeah, going in, I'm like, I want it to be our next Dead or Alive for this season, because Dead or Alive was probably like the biggest surprise of our last
Yeah.
go through of video game movies, and it just
Became
was so
one of my
fun.
favorites because of that.
Yeah,
You know?
right. I think we always point to that film as being like, hey, if you're gonna be a B movie video game film, do this, do this. But yeah, I guess I generally agree. Like, it wasn't brutal to like watch. It wasn't, I wasn't checking my phone or anything like that outside of writing some notes. I wasn't, bored. I mean, it's a good hour and 29 minutes, something like that, right in that beautiful
Yeah.
range of, right in the good range of an hour 30, basically. Yeah, it's definitely low budget. But they tried. There's a lot of interesting elements I liked in this. They embraced the cheese when it came to like the effects with like when she's slicing the zombies down, and they literally do like the visual effect of like almost an anime video game whatever kind of slash effect, right?
Which also just happens to kind of cover up how like undisciplined she probably is as an actor using that weapon, that they can like basically mask over how like bad the kind of horizontal swing here and then this swing and that, if they just have these shinks and shinks, and they did good speed up effects too. They were sped up.
Yeah,
well.
I was gonna say like even the first like fight scene for me was like impressive in the sense of the once again the budget and whatever with everything that's
You
in
can
it.
tell they had a shoestring for a budget.
Yeah, but like I was like, oh, this actually doesn't look half bad. Oh, there's some cool like classic martial art movie stuff in this where like she freezes in the air while doing like a split, like kicking both the zombies in the face. Like cool. Like at least it's cheesy. It's not trying to be realistic, right? Like it's already not realistic with the premises and everything like that, right? Um, but yeah, like some of the combat wasn't amazing at other parts, but I was
Yeah,
very
I
much
agree.
surprised for a lot of the scenes where I was like, okay, that looks cool. But I'm gonna say I'm blanking on all the names right now.
I have them listed. Aya Imichi is our main character. Raiko is
Reiko,
the
Reiko
mom. Raiko, yeah. And
is the
Katsuji
biker, right?
is the guy, and then Saki is Aya's sister. I don't know
Yeah.
what the bad guy's name is.
So Reiko, the biker, who I think is my favorite of the three women.
I agree.
I loved her sawed-off shotgun that had infinite ammo,
Right.
infinite range. It's so
No
fucking
recoil.
cool. No recoil. It's like
Yeah.
that is, if anything, that is pretty spot on with a video game kind of gun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, don't worry about the ammo. This is a shoot 'em up kind of a scenario here. Just start blasting.
Yeah.
And like there's the one scene when the girl that they find like got bit and she's changing or whatever, and Reiko is staying behind and like she's pointing the gun at her face and like she's like, oh, I don't want to do it. And it's like if it was a shotgun, I guess where my brain's going, like her head is completely gone.
Yeah.
And
It's basically
that's
a
actually
single bullet type of gun. Weird.
yeah, and I'm like that would be even more messed up for the psyche than just I don't know getting a knife and stabbing her in the heart or whatever.
Right.
Or
just
even
a
cutting her head off
9mm
would
that
probably
just pow.
even cutting her head off probably would be less mentally taxing than being like, yeah, I'm about to aim this sawed off
I
right
now have to
point
step
blank.
around her brain bits on the floor to get through the doorway. On the
Right.
other end. Yeah.
But overall, like the plot was fine. It felt like a weird. And I know I don't want to compare it to an anime because I'm not trying to say all Japanese stuff is the same, but that's what it kind of felt like. It felt like a 30-minute plot of like an anime that I feel like I've seen before, spread out through an hour and a half with some all right action sequences, some maybe good than others.
There's a range.
There's some jokes, there's some humor. I feel like our one guy there, our only guy outside of the bad guy, kind of just felt like the comic relief. I kind of was hoping he would have more of a
But he's the
purpose.
brains of the operation.
But he never really
I
shows
think that was
that.
supposed to be a joke. I honestly think that was supposed to be a joke.
But like he's constantly being saved, which is kind of funny. Then he kind of kills the bad guy at the end. Spoilers.
He definitely kills the bad guy at the end.
But really, it was the zombie that came in coincidentally and distracted him enough.
Yeah,
to
but he tried.
Get attacked.
He didn't run away. You know what I mean? He went in there
He was kind of laying
kill.
He was kind of laying on the ground, and he was like, "I'm dead."
He snuck in that room to fight him in the first place. I feel like that is his bravery. There.
I feel like to make him cooler, that he should have been just straight 1v1, no zombie bullshit. All right,
1v1 me, no zombie bullshit. Final destination, no items, box only.
But I guess that's all my kind of just quick rambled thoughts. Was just I agree with what you're saying. There's some cool shit. Oh, can we just mention there's a Dragon Ball Z fight at the end of this shit?
Yeah, she goes Super Saiyan.
Straight up, and then her sister also goes Super Saiyan, and then there's a beam fight.
But she needed their sister Saki needed to go could only go Super Saiyan when she injected herself with like zombie blood or whatever it was.
Yeah,
she wasn't supernatural.
Her sister was S tier and she was only A.
Yep.
She wasn't. Yep. She couldn't take that next step without zombie blood.
Yeah, and like okay, so like you mentioned the plot. Like I feel like what this really is all right. We have the license to make this, but we have no budget. What we basically need is a flashback. We need two little girls to hold a couple sticks while an older man gets beaten up by ninjas. And then we do some pans of like from the girls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That
scene was very well done. That was the one scene that I was like, oh yeah, this is showing how low budget this is.
We need a couple times of day shots in this outdoor area that's in Jeffrey's backyard. Well, I'm sure it was done in Japan. So the guy's probably named not Jeffrey, but in so and so's backyard.
I feel like it was just
we
like
built this one.
It was like
set.
a park or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
like just
definitely somewhere. It looks. I mean, just it's not lit very well, even in the daytime. Like even like in, I don't want to say real movies. This was a real movie, but in high budget Hollywood movies, even in the daytime, they will light the daytime scenes with giant lights.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they need.
Or they
to
have
look
like the
better
umbrella,
than real life.
Or they have the umbrella stuff, and I'm sure they might have had some of that stuff, but maybe they only had one.
Maybe.
Real
life does not look as good as what real life in the movies do. Real life is actually pretty disappointing in how real life looks. But then they had like one like destroyed like pair of buildings, like small, that they then, I swear, like that first fight took place on one side, and then granted they traveled, but I guarantee the other building sections was on the other side of that, and they just don't go back there because it looks different on the other side.
It looked like a
I swear
lost,
it's
like
shit like that.
It looked like a lost, or like I wouldn't say lost, I guess a no longer in use, just like weird factory kind of thing, which is probably big enough that you could say it's like the post-apocalypse, everything's run down. But for me, it always just felt like you are going through like, I don't know, just an old like nature park that once had like a mining factory on it. Like that's like set piece, and it never really felt like they traveled. I agree, which sucks because they're trying to, I think, say that multiple times that like we're going somewhere. I don't know where they were going. I never really established that.
Honestly, they were walking, and their motivation was just, we're going to kill all the zombies. She's looking for Saki, but she does not know. So they're just walking in a direction, and eventually they walk in front of the CGI building. That was completely fake, which is fair. I wouldn't have expected them to make that either. Out of concrete, those angles.
And honestly, for when this movie came out,
2008.
In 2008, that's not too bad. Like for this level of movie budget, honestly, that's probably where half the budget went. Like, well, listen, we just need one shot.
I mean,
of honestly, the factory, because we're gonna cut right to them being in it. So
we're not gonna. There's no front door for them to walk through. There's this hallway, weird hallway thing.
I liked that hallway. It was very industrial. I don't know where they found that, but that
for the zombie.
But that was a cool. That was a cool spot.
And then there was an office. My favorite part about this office, where the bad guy is, he's watching like the footage on a laptop. Which
a MacBook Air, I believe.
And there was a Sony TV
Pro, whatever, at
next
the time,
to it.
2008.
Yeah. And
I do like that the screensaver is on.
That's what I was going to say.
Afterwards, it's so distracting.
Probably just left it. Yeah, and it was very distracting. That's what I was going to say. And I just, there's like 3 sets, technically 4 sets, and like a couple different times a day, and that's it. Like, as far as plot goes, all it really is we just get flashbacks of backstory from technically 2 different points of view, and then like an incidental story with this woman that they find who just immediately falls in love with this child, and like is immediately like, you don't know if this kid actually has parents that she's trying to find. Granted, the kid isn't talking really all that much, but like way too trusting. And then like, it feels more like it's that person's story, because that person's story at least had I don't want to say an emotional ending, because the other one did with Aya and Saki did have an emotional ending. Regardless of if it hits for you or not, it's what the intention is. But the Raiko story felt more like it was complete, and the Aya one isn't.
It was a very rushed B plot. Like, it went from, because I thought, okay, they say this girl and she's going to be the main, like, honestly, I thought, I was like, okay, I didn't even think it was a B plot at first. I was like, oh, this kid's going to be with them, and maybe now, like, the expectations of what their goal is changes. Like, oh, we need to get her to her parents, or we need to watch out for her, kind of like a Joel Ellie kind of situation, right? I thought that's where it was going, and then they're like, no, she's bitten. Oh, she's gonna die like 10 minutes later.
There's a hospital scene set, because then they warp to a hospital.
they like stumble upon one. Yeah. So for me, it's just like, maybe they just need something for filler, and they're like, okay, let's quickly throw this B plot together. But
Maybe.
it
Yeah.
did. I feel like you needed to pick one in this kind of film. I think you need to pick either case you're waiting for your sister to come, or you're trying to find your sister, and or fight the evil bad guy that you established in the beginning. Like I get like a zombie movie sometimes, and I've seen a lot of zombie movies, and you sometimes want to, I think of Dawn of the Dead, Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. I haven't seen the original one, but it's on my list to watch this year. George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, the original zombie guy.
For your Christmas lead up.
Yes, Christmas lead up. And Zack Snyder's, like, for example, like there's a scene where like the pregnant woman got bit, so there's that kind of like dramatic thing, and like it's showing how cruel the world is and how there's no like the bad guys aren't always dying. It's like, oh, you can die at any moment, kind of, right? It's putting that risk for the characters. So I don't mind that stuff in zombie movies, and it's kind of a trope, but they just did a very not good job of it because I didn't care about that girl because he's shown her for 5 minutes.
Right.
You tried to tie it in with like, with Reiko's daughter, but I think we needed to spend a lot more time with her before you got to that point.
Too quickly. Like, I don't even know this girl, and somehow now you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think we're both agree that like Raiko is definitely the most interesting of all the characters. She's just cooler. You know what I mean? Just
I wish she had a motorcycle more. I wish that was shown more.
Yeah, I don't know why she left it.
I get why, but with budget, they probably we can rent this motorcycle out for one day, and we can only drive it through this small little whatever it was.
We only have it for 2 hours.
Outlet.
Then we have to return it from the place we rented it from. So let's get this scene over with, type of thing. Just roll up and then
or it was like a crew member's friend, bike, and then they were like, yeah, I need it for work tomorrow. So yeah, and also don't break it because this is my only mode of transportation. So I wish she was shown on it more. Just I get why maybe if they're walking together, but like I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe like make that the B plot is that they get separated because maybe she takes the girl on the bike somewhere. Like have them disconnect and then come back together. It's also pretty predictable that Reiko is gonna come back at the end.
I'm watching the film and I called it. You're gonna just hear gunshots, and then we cut. Oh yeah, that's exactly how she comes back in. Yeah,
which is fine. Sure. I didn't hate it. It's just predictable, right?
Yeah.
And granted, that like at least it was pretty cool when that I did like that final fight. I did think they did a decent job with the budget and in the set that they had. I did like all the zombies with the ponchos. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's how you can know they were super zombies because they had cloaks over. Yeah, and like
they honestly look like the Left 4 Dead zombies. I think this was before Left 4 Dead, so I guess maybe Left 4 Dead was inspired.
I think it's around the time.
With the hunters, I think they were called in Left 4 Dead.
It's been the one with
decade plus, the hoodie kind of thing. Yeah.
I feel like the main attention for the film was on the fights. They cared more about that than the story or anything else like that. And granted, it is a video game, so they have to make. And I'm sure you swing that sword a lot at zombies. So they probably wanted to make sure that looked cool as best as they could. And I feel like that's where, the main source of enjoyment from this B movie comes from. I enjoyed this terrible movie, because its fights were goofy and entertaining enough. They weren't incredible.
And there was enough of them.
A range on quality. But yeah, like the beginning of this film, I'm like, oh God, and it's just this random shitty zombie movie. A shitty zombie movie. And then all of a sudden, like, the fight kind of begins, and I'm like, hold on a second. This could be good. This could be funny. And it was. I mean, we talked about the effects on swinging the sword and the gunshots and just like she has this purple ghost blade effect that she does sometimes. Where she just kills them all instantly type of thing.
Like powers it up. Yeah.
And I like that. I feel like they did an actual good job, because there's a difference between us saying that like, oh, the Super Saiyan aspect and the purple glowy sword and the slashes were good versus what would actually look good if it's done with, unionized, high-paid, lots of large team VFX union workers, you know what I mean? Versus whatever people they could scrounge together to get this. But there's a difference between this looking good for what it is and what they have versus what could look good with unlimited budget and money, which is the same thing. But the thing I think actually looked good, and I don't mean that in the for what it is, just in general, is the moments in the fights where it's sped up. It's edited in such a way where, like, you really do just see them move fast in an anime fashion, and it doesn't look like they use a slow-mo camera and then played it at 24 frames a second as opposed to 120 but at the 240. Right. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, the edit, whoever cut the movie together, edited all that, like, I think they did a great job with
at least
what
for
they
the
had.
Action scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like they don't have control over like the camera shots necessarily, all the time. So,
right.
Or they probably were like, hey, we have, like we talked about, like they might have one night to shoot at that opening scene there at that weird, like that weird, like I don't even know what to call it, hangout,
farm rave.
Yeah, what's funny is when I watched the YouTube version, it was around there where I stopped it and I was like, I can't do this. I didn't realize, I thought that was indoors. That's how blurry and disorienting it was for me. I was like, oh, this. I thought that was like inside a garage or like something like that. So when like watching it replay again with the better visual quality, I'm like, oh, that's outside. I thought they were hanging out like under a bridge or like in a garage or something like that. Also, I want to talk about this because we watch a lot of video game movies now, and I can't really remember. There might have been one other.
Okay.
But this is maybe I think it was, I guess, Blood Rain. They're putting sex scenes in my video game movies.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. They show some nips.
What's going on with that? Which I thought was the funniest sex scene ever. Because leading up to it, it's them like stumbling upon our crew like around the campfire there and being like, be careful where you go. And it's like, okay. It was random. I thought
they were sad and like clearly like not happy.
Yeah, and then there's more dialogue and whatever. Then it cuts to them having sex, and the funniest thing was when the girl like puts her arm on the window and there's like a scratch.
It screeches.
Yeah, I was like,
on glass.
Clearly, it's not that dangerous around here if y'all are just that deep in passion. Yeah. But hey, the zombies do come. But I just thought it was so funny, the screech effect, everything. And then they both
glad
die.
That they didn't save her. Like, I thought, like, he's going to die, and then Aya's going to bust in here because she heard it. No, he just dies, too.
Yeah, but it just was so random. Like, I was just like, what is... This whole scene was random. But I was like, why are they in this area? Why are they, like... Then all of a sudden, they're like, don't go snooping around.
For? Other than just to forewarn zombies, which we kind of figured was going to just happen here anyway. Just as movie watchers. But I love, he's beaten. So he's trying to fight off the zombies with his crossbow. And those are some big ass bolts sticking out of that zombie's chest. Yeah. So like, that boy's dead. But anyway, he's shouting at his girlfriend, run, go. And
to where?
Because she's naked and covered in a blanket and she's just probably scared shitless. And then
also, I think the only entrance was in front of them, though, which was the funniest thing. Was there a back?
Yeah, in the back. That's where she goes to stumble back, and then one of them opens the door and gets at her. But as he's being surrounded and grabbed, he's reaching out to her. So in his last moments, he's not necessarily saying go, and then but she goes and grabs his arm way too late, and then effortlessly pulls it apart, like as if she's super strong. You know what I mean? Like, I get zombies are weak, and you probably could pull a zombie's arm across, but he's a freshly being eaten human being. You know what I mean? I just found that hilarious and very, very.
It was
funny.
Very much reminds me a little bit of like the 90s like horror comedies, of that era where it's like the goofy body horror stuff that is so ridiculous that it's not even gross; it's more funny. That's one of the few moments of that in this movie. And really isn't much else to that, but I think they were just trying to do a classic thing where it's like, just like, oh my god, the arm fell off. Oh no,
Yeah.
Maybe that's gross to some people. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a random. I just was dying about that whole scene. Just the setup for it, and then the outcome of it was just like what is happening? Just so random.
Yeah, and the best part is those are characters that were introduced to do nothing. Like they were
to have a sex scene, really.
Yeah.
And then die, and then they do run into our guy, and he once again panics and just kind of can't decide which one to fight, and then he's saved again. But
Katsuji, who ate a can of cat food.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I'm gonna put it out this way. He said dinner's good when you haven't eaten in 3 days, or when it's been 3 days.
That was funny. That was one of the better jokes in the film. Yeah.
So like, good on him for.
Oh, and also, he does fight his sister. That's the
he kills her.
Yeah. That's
She
a
was the
classic
one with
zombie thing
the
too.
Morning
You
Star.
gotta make the hard choice or whatever of. You watched your family member turn into a zombie. What are you gonna do? So that was classic.
Yeah.
I did the slow mo of him running up, and then the music stops, and like he kills her. I don't know if that was as dramatic as they wanted it to be. I don't know if it hit, but they tried. I appreciate
about him running up to kill when his turn to fight the bad scientist dude or whatever happens. He's in the back, and part of me is like, the bad guy knows, but the majority of me is like, I don't think this movie's just trying to do that. I think he just doesn't know, because this guy isn't really set up all that well. Also, was that bad guy trying to rape his test subject in the beginning? That's what I'm pretty sure that was.
There was some weird.
That's what I think
weird, like,
was
advances,
implied, but I couldn't 100% tell if he was just
or
really
he's just being the creepy
Hojo like
creepy
scientist from Final Fantasy VII, or if he's just alone.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just like one of those weird, sadistic, gross scientist characters that you've seen in other horror stuff, where it is a little either implied or maybe it doesn't happen, but it's still creepy and weird, and you're supposed to hate him. So
yeah. But anyway, when Kintsugi goes he's got his knife, you know what I mean? He's going up. I was expecting with the, pretend this battery is a knife, like in the neck type of thing from behind. Instead, he just kind of grapples him. Like, you could have shanked him in the back of the neck and he would have been dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Even like if you snuck up and like you could have just slit his Achilles or something like that, Make him fall down.
A major artery, he ain't getting out,
Stab him in the side, like that's still gonna do some damage. He
he
wasn't like a guy. He wasn't one of those.
If he gets stabbed in the belly.
He wasn't like one of those villains either that has some sort of supernatural power or like anything like that. Like he was just some older dude. Yeah, like But and then he once again, like I said, then he needed the zombie to come save him, so he can get the upper hand.
That's true, but he tried his best. Not all of us are gonna be.
And then he disappears. By the way,
ladies.
Then he disappears for that whole final fight.
I view it less as he disappears versus they split up at the beginning, because he says, you take Saki, I'll take the other guy. And he does technically just disappear somehow and is in that room. But like, I view like the final thing in the backyard between Aya and Saki as more of like, they just didn't bother to get him. And they don't know. And like some, but
then he just comes back. And I was saying it to Bryn when we were watching. I was like, he's gonna come back and he's gonna say some sort of. Just like I said, he's the comic relief. He's after like a crazy fight where you killed your sister. He's gonna come in and say like, "Who's hungry? Like, do you want to go kill some zombies?" And I think he literally says something like that.
Yeah. But then Aya smiles, which he said to Raiko, he's never seen her smile. And I will give the movie 1 bonus decimal point for not explicitly saying, wow, I haven't ever seen you smile. Like, we already knew he said that earlier. They literally did the show, don't tell, for the last part. And I'm like, I saw that. I'm like, this movie would not be smart enough to do that, but they were, and I'm surprised.
Yeah, because they could have had him say like, "Oh my gosh, you smiled! I've never seen you smile before."
Right.
Like that could have been the dialogue.
And you see him acknowledge that, and that's it. I'm like, wow.
That's where they should have cut though. You know, do a dramatic cut. Be like, she smiles, cut.
Yeah. Well, no,
just like The Last of Us or a lot of other dramatic films in video games, right? Yeah. Oh, you smiled. Wow, it was all worth it.
Press triangle to smile more.
We did all this to make you smile.
Yeah. Well, there's a sequel for this, so I am interested
and there was
to know what the hell they do.
Was there an end credit scene?
No. I watched that. Well, I clicked through it to skim. What's funny too is like 1 minute before the film ended, I got an ad break for fucking NFL on Fox. Like,
hell yeah,
great! I just want this movie to be over with. Yeah.
But yeah, and the credits were actually a lot longer than I thought they were gonna be too.
I skipped through them
for a low budget film.
Yeah.
I like to listen to the soundtrack. I'm like, you never know when you find a gem in the soundtrack.
That's true.
But yeah, that's I think we covered almost everything.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think what
else.
That's
the movie. Honestly, when you said about like it being a 30-minute, probably 22 minutes with 8 minutes of commercial TV episode that stretched, to that length, feels apt because not much really happens. We could, honest to God, edit this movie down to 22 minutes and not lose anything. We could lose nothing and edit this down.
I think 22 minutes would be tough, but I for sure 30.
The action scenes wouldn't be as long. You know what I mean?
I'm just trying to think what would we cut.
We would keep.
Every
scene would be in it. Every scene would be in it, but they'd be far more abrupt and quick in their introductions on what's going on. Maybe the sex itself isn't in there, but us seeing them.
No, I'm cutting
intimate
that
is in
thing.
there. Cut to the screeching.
See, I would cut all that out. I wouldn't even show them. I wouldn't even show them coming. I'd find a way to cut it to where, oh no, there's zombies here.
Sure, I mean,
he goes to pee. He goes to pee, and that's when the zombie. That's when the zombies come. He goes to pee. Just do that. Be like, I gotta piss. He walks away.
Yeah. And when those two zombies come up, we know that they're the characters, but like they don't acknowledge that, so we don't have to acknowledge that in the edit.
So I'm saying you don't even have them. I'm with you on the
fact that we could remove stuff, but if we were to keep every scene in the movie represented, we still could edit them all down to 22 minutes. I still think we could. We're never actually. I'm not going to do that, by the way. That would not.
We make the. It's not a director's cut.
But
it's a like condensed cut.
It's a consideration cut. We know you don't have a lot of time. Here's the 22-minute version of the movie, and it's all of its standard definition glory. Even though this was a 2008 film, this didn't really feel either. There was a lot of film grain on this, or the 2B version was just low resolution. But
it was a lot worse on YouTube. Let me tell you that.
I bet. Well, I mean, I saw the thumbnail and I didn't click it because you watched the movie first. I'm like, that looks like it's like a 144p. Like you say 480, I watch something at 480. It's gonna look a lot better than what you say it is.
It was definitely lower than that.
It's like
I try to give benefit of the doubt, but watching it on a big TV, and everything, just didn't help it. Obviously, so my backup scenario was to watch it on my phone. That was my. I was like, if I couldn't find anything, I was like, I'm gonna watch it on my phone. Yeah. That's during, like right before recording, I guess. That was my backup. So, but I'm glad it was on TV at least. So
yeah. So, why don't we talk about what we do here on the Sonic Movie Show when we do our video game movie reviews? Again, folks, if you haven't watched the show before, you can find us on YouTube as well as all these podcast services. On YouTube versions of these video game movie reviews, you get to see kind of like a rubric on how we grade and examples of these movies. We don't rank the films that we watch because that's kind of splitting hairs. I could give you a top 5 list of my favorite games or movies, but if I try to rank every game or movie I played, what's the difference between 56 and 57? We gets to that point, right? What does it really matter?
I mean, we did get to that point with Chronicles of
Diesel, and I feel like it's a good example of what did it really matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
really.
Because by the end, we were like, I don't even I liked this, but like it's hard to compare it when I just watched this. You know,
what we should have done was what we do here for video game movie reviews, which is
and just put them in a
letter
tier.
grade, and it's a tier.
Yeah.
We don't need to remember which we like more of all of the, C tier films, but we know that they're all the same. It almost makes it easier to kind of remember, like, you give that letter grade a meaning, and then, like, you can recall what that meaning meant to that film to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I do remember that list, like, we didn't give it tiers, but there was definitely times where we're like, well, we know this movie.
Here's a bracket range.
Yeah, we're like, from 13 to 19, this section is good. We were always like, there's a gap between this and this, right? We were always like, there's a difference between this Fast and Furious film and this other like there was times we did that even just for the Fast movies. So
yeah. And my favorite bracketed, range is the range of films underneath the video games. That's my favorite one, because it's like, y'all have to really fuck up if you mess up on these, like,
or your music video and it's like, it was so dumb to rank.
Really shitty Universal ride that was probably expensive to make. I digress. We're getting off topic here. Here on the Sonic Movie Show, for a video game movie reviews, we talk about the film, we give it a letter grade, and we compare it to other ones. Now, we did this whole video game movie draft. That being said, I'd like to show you guys kind of what we're talking about when we do our rubrics. So, it's very simple. It's F through A, with S being on top. We'll start at the top and work our way down. S-rank films are as far as video game movies are concerned, because we like to grade on a curve for video game movies. Now, as more and more movies come out in the modern times that are good, maybe we start to kind of look at it without that curve. Once we feel like we've caught up to other movies. I don't want to say movies in general, but other types of movies, you know what I mean? Then maybe we take that away. But as far as grading on a curve goes, S-rank films are the best that they could probably ever be. These are films that either understand the game it's based off of, the series it's based off of, or just like the fandom and reason why people like the series. And they make a film based on that intent. And they pull it off. And there's always something a little bit special about these films.
There's usually a sauce to it
above. Yeah. That's why I kind of look at S rank. Well, I think S is supposed to stand for special. I look at S as it's an extra star you get on top of your A rank. It's the one thing, it's very similar to an A rank, but it's got that one little thing that's like, yes, this is a top.
I think in the past, it's been, in the past, it might have been something as like, oh, this movie's just well made, like production's great, all the actors are great, the music's great.
Prince of Persia: Sands of Time fits all those descriptions right there. Yeah,
and it's also pretty close to the game in terms of the story and whatnot. So those kind of things. Yeah,
they literally made Jake Gyllenhaal out of a tube of acid in order to make him look like the Prince of Persia man. Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, Detective Pikachu, and Sonic the Hedgehog 2 are our 3 S-rank films. The A rank, again, very similar to S. It might be missing that one extra thing that's like, wow, either I wasn't expecting this movie to be this fantastic or whatnot, but it's still a fantastic movie on its own right. Even if it's not that good of a movie, it still makes up for it because it understood the assignment. It's a video game movie based off Mortal Kombat. And you know what? Mortal Kombat is dumb. I'm sorry, it's dumb. But they know that, and then they make a movie about how that's actually cool, and it's fun. The Street Fighter movie in the 90s is a G.I. Joe film. It's like a Street Fighter in the sense that the characters are there, but they made a different movie because they probably thought it would be hard to make that movie look good. So they made a G.I. Joe film, and it was awesome and stupid and fun. Gave me my favorite villain line in any film. For me, it was Tuesday. The Super Mario Brothers movie from the 90s, the Super Mario Brothers movie from the today times. All these movies are like that. They understood that it's a video game, and they made a good film out of it.
A is for assignment. You understood it.
There we go. B rank films are films that aren't quite there yet. But if you were to balance the good and the bad, it's definitely way more good than there is bad. Maybe it's a very, very kind of weak overall story, but it has a lot of heart to it. It's clearly having fun with itself. Maybe the fight scenes in that original Mortal Kombat movie are mostly bad,
Very
but they're
bad.
kind of sold.
If anything,
in
the
a
movie we
way.
just watched had a lot better choreography than majority of those fights in the Mortal Kombat film, the '95 one.
I'm thinking mainly about the Sonya one, her first Sonya fight.
Oh,
I'm
that
like,
was so bad.
I feel like
It
they
was
just
embarrassing.
grabbed a random woman and said, "You need to be this character for today." That's how unprepared
It was
she
embarrassing.
was. But
it
the
felt
majority
very
of
bad.
those,
It looked really bad.
and even that one, I feel like they're kind of sold very well. We're like, I still buy it, even though this is extremely corny and the camp levels are off the chart. Original Resident Evil movie is like that as well. The original Silent Hill movie is like that in the horror sense, where it's not about high dumb action, it's about high dumb thrills. You know what I mean?
That movie, that I've always liked that movie when we watched it too. I remember I was so excited about it because it was just, it has some cool horror. Like if you take away the Silent Hill game out of it, like it's just a really eerie, uncomfortable at times film. And I'm like, that's what I like in my horror films. I like good atmospheres. And yeah, they did a good job of that. And I didn't know jack shit about the fucking game. So
yeah. My favorite B movie we have on the list, B tier movie we have on the list is DOA Dead or Alive.
yeah,
Film
banger.
that just, it knew what it was working with and it made better than what the best they could have done with it.
B for banger. B for banger.
B for banger. Our C tier films are, I guess, average statistically based off the fact that it's the middle of 7 rankings. But for me, these are the ones where I guess they are the most issue filled, but you're willing to let them pass. You know, films like Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, or I guess it's technically called Advent Children Final Fantasy VII. It's a boring story. It's got 4 colors in the entire movie. But the, at the time, animation is really good looking. It's a good looking film, and the action scenes are awesome. I want to like this movie, and I'm willing to make the good outweigh the bad for my enjoyment. The original Lara Croft Tomb Raider movie and its sequel, both starring Angelina Jolie, those are films where I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'm having fun with this movie. Yeah, it's not good, but I'm having fun with this movie. We have the majority of the Resident Evil movies are in here where it's like, listen, I've stopped caring about the overall series' plot and story.
After the second one,
Whatever.
basically.
It's fine and it's fun.
There's good stunts and
Yeah.
explosions and in combat, and Milia Jokovic there, you know, she's cool. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the C tier because it's a compromise tier.
Just start adding words to each.
Hey, you started it.
I know.
The D tier is Doring. It's our boring tier film, or dumb, I guess. These are films
Dumb.
where, like, man,
Donkey.
this could have been a whole lot better. I am dissatisfied with this film.
Disappointed.
Or disappointed, even. Those are basically the same word. Assassin's Creed is the prototypical D tier film for us. We mention this every time we talk about the D tier films. They're films where the premise is extremely boring because the potential could have been so much better. You could have made a great Assassin's Creed movie, a great Doom movie, a great Hitman movie, a great World of Warcraft movie, or just
All the
Warcraft.
all the pieces like we think most of the time for those films are there. Like Assassin's Creed had a good cast, had a good set, and the budget is all there. You can see it. Like this big set pieces where they're fighting in Roman times or whatever time it was. It looked cool. But then, like, we go back to the like we've said many times. It's like, what is free
Creed
will?
was the
I don't
age
know.
of Columbus, by the way. Remember that was the big thing. He gave the MacGuffin to Columbus, and Columbus said, "Aye, aye, sir."
Oh my god, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
And then he went off
Maybe
to
the
rape some
Illuminati?
Native Americans.
Illuminati was in there. Yeah.
No, they weren't called the Illuminati. They were called the Templars. But yes, everything
Whatever.
and the movie was too afraid to say anything, but it wanted you to respect it. Yeah,
It was very, like I said, like the big question it tries to ask is what is free will, and it's like, I don't know, tell me. Like I'd rather you just give me your own opinion, and I can just disagree or agree with you. You know what I mean? It was very like, it was too open book, you know, without being anything on the pages.
God, they remind me of like all like the bad Batman comics that are about Ra's al Ghul and his like world balance and this and that. It's like, what the fuck are you trying to say? You're just gonna kill a bunch of people for what? Batman. No, he just says something stupid.
Right.
The Doom movie, it should have been more first person scenes. An entire movie in first person with the Doom name on it would have been so interesting, even if it was executed terribly, would have been amazing. Instead, they played it very safe. They had Carl Urban kill The Rock, and
which sucks because I was like, cool. But we've seen plenty of movies with both of these people in separate films, and we were like, okay, cool. Maybe this movie will be fun, and yeah, just kind of disappointing.
Yeah. Yep. I am dissatisfied with the film.
Dissatisfied.
The E tier film. Now, some might say this is the Ethan tier. I think these are the poorly executed films. Blood Rain is a good example.
It's ew.
These are movies that are extremely disappointing. I know D, sure, disappointing, but these are, I'm like, what the fuck, guys? You had Terry Bogard in King of Fighters be a CIA agent? That's just not what the character is. Why is Mila Jovovich in a Desert Storm environment with, military guys fighting a couple CGI dinosaurs in Monster Hunter? Where's the lush environments that the games are based on? Blood Rain, what the fuck? Mortal Kombat Annihilation, get over yourself. You weren't really all that funny the first time on purpose. You're funny because you made a bad movie enjoyable. You don't get to try again on purpose. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
These films don't understand their source material. These films don't know how to execute on their source material. These films signed a check or grabbed a check and then cashed it. They cashed the check. That's the term.
Some of them, they aren't cashing no checks. They didn't make no money on half of these films.
Probably.
Let's be real.
Probably. Enough said about the E tier and the F tier. These are legitimately offensive films. These are fuck these films. Really, only Postal's in it. I doubt we'll ever watch a film on this level as the Postal film. What the hell is going on
for our sake and for everyone else's sake? Yeah. I don't even want to give that movie clout.
Absolutely.
Or even any sort of internet traction.
Yeah. For the Sonic Movie Show. Hey, we watched a bunch of films this season, and we watched our penultimate film of the season here, my last pick. That's right, Devin and I each picked 6 films out of a pile in a draft-like situation. So far this season, we've watched the 2018 film Tomb Raider, the Resident Evil Degeneration film, Tekken Blood Vengeance, Mortal Kombat Legends, Scorpion's Revenge, Kingsglaive Final Fantasy 15, Ratchet & Clank, Persona 3 the movie number 2, Midsummer Night's Dream, Dead Space Downfall, Ni no Kuni, and Angry Birds. Now we watched OneChanbara the movie. As you can see, we've given these other films tier rankings, and there's point values attached because pride is on the line here. In a weird way where we have to agree together what the tier is. So we just go with it. It's fine. It's not that big a deal, but it's fun to do regardless. Now, a couple things. So far, I'm in the lead with a 40th decimal, something like that.
However the math works. Yeah.
It's less than 1 point difference between the two of us. The last film, Angry Birds, is similar to this film in the sense that they are both counter picks that Devin and I made, where we said, hey, that movie on your list, I think it's going to be bad. And I bet that I'm going to get points off of it being bad. It's just an extra thing on the side here. Remember, S-rank films get you 6 points, A gets you 5, B 4, etc., all the way down. F gets you 0. For this movie here, if we give this film a D, then Devin gets 1 point, and I just get whatever D is, which is 2 points. If
I like how
Devin moves 3.
I feel like based off now that we've done almost a complete run of this, and if we do this in the future, I think it's funny is that basically getting any F tier or even E tier film probably does it for you, for the whole thing. Luckily none of us did it. Luckily none of us had that, like I said at the top. I hope all these movies, every time we watch them, are good or at least fun and enjoyable, because it sucks to do a Postal episode, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that F, man, getting an F movie would be brutal in this, because that's get 0 and then the other guy get 3.
Film left.
I know.
But this is
I really don't think Corpse Party will be.
We'll see.
I hope not.
Just like this,
like
movie,
you said, F is for the fuck 'em. For the fuck 'em.
Hey, who knows? Who knows? Maybe all those kids are Nazi sympathizers. We don't know.
Maybe. Yeah.
But any case, yes. So we're gonna give this movie a letter grade, and I'll get some points, and Devin may or may not get points, or he might lose points as well, depending on how high we rank this film. This being my movie, I would like to go first and give my tier ranking. Now, as I said at the top, what I wanted this to be was this season of the Sonic movie shows DOA Dead or Alive. The film where I'm like, this is going to be embarrassing to watch. Its premise is, at least the game's premise, is far too horny for a moviegoer's liking. But they're going to go all out and make it embarrassing. And I'm going to be like, thank God I'm watching this movie alone. And no one's around me to be like, Ethan, you're watching this? But then it turns out it is actually a lot of fun, not nearly as sexist as I thought it would be. Has a lot of fun with itself. Gave me my other favorite line of all video game movie time, Dad, you bit my leg.
Yeah.
And, it was a really fun time. This movie, like I said at the top, wasn't quite DOA Dead or Alive, but it was close. It's like, hey, what if we had a 10th of the characters... You know what I mean? As that DOA movie, there were a lot of people in that DOA film, a lot of people, and I'm not talking extras. You know what I mean?
Just like characters,
side characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how many villains the movie had. This had a 10th of the cast, a 10th of the budget. DOA had an island. You got to remember that as well. 10th the cast, 10th the budget, and what they did with it wasn't a 10th of the spirit. It was full in spirit. Now. Overall, the execution on this film isn't that great. The action scenes carry this film into something that's watchable. I would have fallen asleep if I was watching this movie in a theater, sans its fight scenes. It would have been the most boring film of my entire life. And I've watched Postal.
That movie wasn't boring because I was like, had my mouth wide open and be like, they're still doing it. They're doing this. Oh my God, they're doing that?
We did a whole episode on Postal. We don't need to relitigate our entire experience here. But just to reiterate a little bit, we're not saying that they succeeded in being edgy South Parkians, you know what I mean, where that's the point. That was their point. We're talking a level beyond that where it's like, why are you trying to make this your point if you can't make it work? Anyway. This movie's not nearly as bad as Postal. It's not as good as DOA. I would personally put this in the tier of C. It was a compromise between what I wanted it to be and what it was. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of parts that made me laugh. Either that was their purpose or because of, it's a low-budget film that has those kind of things. I agree with if you take away the fight scenes, it might have been a very brutal watch. And I think that we can be a little bit harder on that. I'm not going to lie. I think that if we take away a core component of it, and if it's bad, I think that's showing how bad it is.
Absolutely.
But going in, I was also kind of hoping it would be a DOA because I want another DOA. That movie slaps.
They should just make another DOA.
Yeah, they should
get
just with the same cast, everything.
If they can,
it's back, baby.
If not, then a new cast. But I want the same creative minds behind that movie to make it again.
No, I want the same cast and then pretend like it's 1 year later. Like, that'd just be fucking hilarious. Just like 1 year later,
20 years older, but sure.
But yeah, I mean, part of me was, I had it maybe in the higher D tier, lower C for me. I'm fine doing C. Just because I'm looking at the D tier list here, and I'm like, Warcraft was boring, man. Persona 3, the movie number one, Spring of Birth, I was like, Hitman, Resident Evil Afterlife and Final Chapter we were kind of like Resident Evil out at that point. Maybe if I rewatched it again, maybe it might be a C, but at the time, it was definitely the D. And Final Fantasy Spirits Within was holy shit. That was the only reason we didn't put an E is because I don't remember what we said at the time, but
it's a visually interesting film. It's just a
and it has the first actor that's not real, and we thought that was just crazy. So we appreciate you tried with so you get a D on that part. But yeah, and then Doom. So, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I probably would. I don't know if I'd watch this movie again by any means. And that's kind of where I in the C film era, like some of those movies I would watch again because I like them. But I'm looking at the D tier and it's just like, if I had to watch, I mean, maybe I'd watch some of the Resident Evil movies, but other than that,
I think maybe I'd watch Doom
ones
again just because that one first-person scene was interesting. But that's more of a wistful longing through a window pane at a movie that could have been versus what is there. You know.
Yeah.
My defense on why this is C and not D is that this is a low-budget B film, a B movie, zombie movie. By the way, I forgot to mention it. I like that they just call them zombies and they don't try to make some pretentious term for them, like walkers or infected.
Oh my God.
Maybe that's more realistic, but hey, guess what? The term zombie is not from some comic book or like obscure, entertainment mythology. It comes from Haiti, a real place that's real, that's older than most of everything else that we would draw history from in terms of the Western Hemisphere.
Don't
you know what I mean?
Don't shit on walkers, right? Walkers.
Okay. The only walker I won't shit on is Walker Texas Ranger. All right.
What is it? 2010? You're bringing up Chuck
2004, Norris? Really, if we're talking Chuck Norris jokes. I used to watch his show a lot. It's so dumb. I love it. It's like it's like an old timey 24. And just how much of a psychopath this guy's. Anyway, my defense is that this film is such a low budget B film, and it kind of presents itself as such. It's not trying to be this big pretentious Assassin's Creed movie. It's not trying to be this giant jock fuel fest that the Doom movie wanted to be. It's not trying to be any of those types of it's just really boring films. This knew what it was. Was it great completely at being it? No. That's why it's C and no higher than C at the very least. But I feel like there's at least a, hey, you know what? This is a B movie zombie movie. And I can really see a lot of tropes and stuff, but like you can kind of see it as an art form that's entertaining enough to watch for what it is. And I feel like that's what a lot of B movies are. Like, I'm entertained by the earnestness and the camp of this film. You know what I mean? That's my defensive why.
Yeah, I feel like if it had a bigger budget and whatnot, and I think that would have maybe hurt it, but considering what they had, they definitely tried. I don't know. We've seen I look at like Blood Rain, for example, where like I feel like those were the same budget, and you can see how much worse that is compared to this. Same with like any of the Mortal Kombat films, but because on the D films, all those movies have pretty decent budgets from what I remember, outside of maybe.
I think Warcraft
Persona
was probably
3.
the highest of budgets, and probably the highest of the box office earners too. But it was just like, what did you even want to do with this movie?
No, I'm fine putting it C. I'm not gonna really fight you. I was just, for me, like, I was just more hard on like if you take away the fighting scenes, like you said, I think it's
absolutely
a boring movie, and you can't really use the excuse at that point of low budget, because that's on the characters, the acting, and also we watched it in dub, and I don't think the dub was good at all.
No.
So I try. That's why I didn't even bring it up really too much. Besides just saying the dubbing isn't really good, but I'm not gonna fully hurt it for that.
Definitely.
So.
I got used to it. I don't want to say it warmed up on me, but I got used to it. Especially Katsuji's voice. His dubbing worked more than the others later on, in my opinion. But yeah, it felt
like there was different tiers of dubbing in it. Like, I feel like what's her name there? Reiko. Okay. Like, I feel like she was the best one of them all because she just felt more believable for me. When other ones, well, one of the characters didn't even talk half the time. So
right, and she felt very weird when she spoke. In any case, this film nets me 3 points, which brings my total currently to 22.1. However, hey, where are these decimals coming from, Devin? Do you know where these decimals come from?
I got. It comes from Rotten Tomatoes from the user score. What are other average folk like us saying about the film? We like to do that just to add a little tiebreaker to it, kind of like in fantasy football, where there's you get a point of a decimal for yards for a wide receiver, and that's usually how you get points.
Okay.
Because they're back in the day, you always got so many tiebreakers, actually more than you'd think, or actually a lot of ties. So that like they added that where it's like, okay, you get a catch is 1 point. How many yards was it? 10. Okay, you get 0.1 or whatever it is. I always thought that was a good way of doing a tiebreaker. That makes sense,
because that's really hard to tie. And like what Devin's pulling up is the percentage user score, and then we turn that into a decimal. So if it's 41,
but I think it's a fun.
I get 0.41.
It's a fun way to, at least
close.
Just see like, are we close to what other people are saying? Because there's been times when we weren't. I cannot spell OneChanbara. Oh my fucking god.
OneChanbara.
All right, I think I got it here.
The movie, not Vortex. That's the sequel. They should just put a fucking 2 in the title.
OneChanbara Bikini Samurai Squad, I think, is the American title. Well, we have another predicament, Ethan. This movie has no.
The second movie of mine and the second movie of the entire show where there's no user score.
You could pull it up. I don't know. We've tried refreshing in the past, and that somehow worked the first time. Then the second time it didn't. I'm not.
Okay.
But let me look. Let me just double check. Let me search OneChanbara and just see if there's any other like listings. I see a second one here. Okay, we got you some. Here you go. There's a second listing with no poster.
Okay, but
it is Chanbara Beauty.
Right? Chanbara Beauty was another American title.
Okay, then don't take this one. It's also 2008, so that's why I got confused.
Okay.
But yeah, there's only 2 listed. I don't even see the.
No. Chanbara Beauty is the American, one of the American titles.
Well, then yeah, that second link I sent has 40%.
40. So
that's pretty good.
20.
I think it's pretty good for this. 0.4. That's a good number.
Yeah. So I'm at 22.5 points. Devin, you have 1 movie left, and your current total is 18.72. In order for me to win, your movie has to be a C. And then I gotta hope you have a lower percentage.
C or lower.
Right, at the best, which is tough. You also earned 0 points as counter pick because it was C, which was average.
Both of us didn't score counter picks. I think that's interesting. I mean, in a way, like strategy wise, I still think it was good. You took a flyer at the end. I took a flyer at the end with Corpse Party. It just sounded kind of cool. I'm like, it might be a fun horror film, and it's funny that I didn't even realize both these films that we picked last are zombie films. And I even did on our Twitter at Sonic Movie Show. I mentioned how like, oh, this is perfect for like, Halloween time. We're getting close to October here, so kind of funny that we both picked. And before we even did this draft, and even before we did even the last season, originally every October we were gonna watch 2 video game horror films.
Yeah.
Until we found out that 90% of them are directed by Uwe Boll, who did Postal. So
and that our just schedule and how we do these wasn't going to line up because like we do 50 episodes a season. There are 52 weeks in a year, I think, and like we've taken some weeks off for legitimately good reasons, and like we're not making any money on the show, so we don't really need to do it every week. We want to, and we try our best. So like it's not going to work out. Our 200th episode is going to be like I think in November, maybe probably. By the end of this year. I don't think it's next year. You know what I mean? But like
probably November, maybe December.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, if next week we're doing what we think we're doing, then it's going to be a delay week for Sonic Movie Show because it'll be Chronicles of Diesel, perhaps, maybe.
It's back. It's back.
It's back by demand. You all wanted him. The little fucker put on his wig, his twig suit, and
the Summer of Groot actually is still going on,
never
baby.
Fucking dying. Yes, that might be in place of this next episode of Sonic Movie Show. That might be what we air. If not, then hey, you probably already know because you probably watched this weeks later, and you can just see the playlist. But yes, so our total now. I am done with my run. I have an A, a C, a D, a B. No, an A, C, D, C, B, C.
I don't think that's a bad. I think obviously you never want a D, but like hitting, I think C on average. I think 90% of the time we'll win you this. At the start, I really felt like when you got that A, I'm like, oh, I might be fucked. I still think I've had to kind of bounce back with the last couple, Dead Space and Angry Birds. Yeah. But I still think you're gonna win this, just maybe by a point. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not super confident.
Then we tie in raw points.
Yeah, and then we got to do
our only difference is I have an A and you have a B. So if your movie's a C, then I raw point win by 1. You know, without the decimals.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not confident with Corpse Party because I took a flyer on that. That was my late picks, and I had a feeling this was gonna come down to late picks. But once we got past, I felt a little bit better after Dead Space and Angry Birds. But you getting that B on Ni no Kuni, I think was huge. So I feel like if that's a C, then I think then we're definitely in who knows territory.
And we had to like talk ourselves down from giving that a higher grade than what I feel like it really deserved, because that movie had really, really strong elements of it, but like we can't deny the other aspects of that film that brought it down to a B. I don't think, don't be too hard on yourself with Corpse Party. I think any direct to streaming or video, direct to DVD, Blu-ray, whatever movie that then gets also a sequel the next year can't be that bad. That being said,
I'm saying I don't know if it's enough. I don't know if it's enough to get me over the hump though. Like even if it's a C, that's great. I'm glad we had fun watching this.
I think you need
I don't know if that's gonna win it for me. I don't think that's gonna win it for me.
I think you need a B, and I think you need
an average over 40, audience score.
Over 40 average at the very least. Yeah. Well,
we'll see. We'll see. I'm excited regardless to finish this thing. I love
me too.
Every time like when we finish all the video game movies and we get to start looking at like the next ones. And I think doing the draft was I'm glad we did it, because I think that made it just a little bit even more extra entertaining, because this is our one of our favorite things we do on this show is these video game movies, because we watched a lot of just movies I don't think I ever would have watched if we weren't doing the show, and some of them are gems like Dead or Alive. So
yeah, absolutely. This is, I would say, my second favorite thing we do. I like, our episode 150 Sonic 06 thing. I liked our episode 100 Sonic Adventure thing. Those are my favorite, but then this is second in terms of regular episodes by far. I love this so much, and I think that this worked out pretty well for us. Maybe we'll find out after Corpse Party this was such a terrible idea, but I doubt it. But I think we'll probably do something extremely similar next season, or the next round of video game movies we pick that are old and not brand new ones, assuming the strikes are met and over with. That's why we didn't do the Gran Turismo movie.
I heard the writers are trying to set up a meeting as of this recording, that the writers are trying to set up a meeting with the
stats?
Executives.
If I can find this. Want some stats if I can find this?
Sure, I'll take some stats.
I don't know if I can find it. Fuck, it was on Twitter and I didn't copy it and I just scrolled past it. This was a all of the major streaming video services, what their percentage of their user base that canceled. And all I can tell you right now off the top of my head was that in last place, aka with the least amount of cancellations, was Apple TV Plus with only 5% of a drop. And the highest was Max with like 27%.
Didn't help that they rebranded.
And then
and all
gutted
that
a bunch of content.
Yeah.
So, and like, David Zaslav, CEO of Warner Discovery, basically gets a shit ton of money to cut stuff from the service, and then also has to announce that they lost $500 million because they're too stubborn to pay people a fraction of what that is. Literally.
Right.
They could have saved money by just saying yes.
It's always a power thing. They're okay with losing more money in a short term if it means that they can keep the same control.
Yep.
So
the ruling class would rather live in a dying world than a world in which they do not rule. That's not my quote. I stole that. Hey, if you want to find more
that was said in Assassin's Creed, actually.
That is way too philosophical for what Assassin's Creed has to say. That literally is a class statement.
It wouldn't have finished the quote. It wouldn't have finished the quote, though. It would have been
class
like...
would rather ... That's
and then it ends.
It might not even say class, because I think to acknowledge that there is
the
a
rulers.
Class,
the rulers. And it'd be like, who is the rulers?
Yeah.
God
the Assassin's Creed movie be like, which is more free, guys? Being in poverty or having to go to the gym. I don't know. I was really struggling to find something funny, and I couldn't. Hey, I'm on Twitter at Ethan Absolutely. Devin's on Twitter at CursonaFun. You can see our names right here on the YouTube version. If you didn't know we were on YouTube, we're on YouTube. You can see our faces. I'm trying to grow a beard. This is the longest it's ever been, and it's extremely itchy and uncomfortable.
Go off, King.
Thank you. The entire show, pointing in the wrong direction, is at Sonic Movie Show on YouTube, Twitter, Threads, Vine. No.
There's no Vine.
Instagram.
TikTok.
I think I said 4 things and I did the 5 fingers. We're on all those
pretend
platforms.
There's 5. Yeah.
Also, in your heart, we're at Sonic Movie Show. Make sure I'm actually on frame. Let us know what you think about all these video game movies. And do you think that they're fun? Because I think that they're fun. Do you think that they're fun, Devin?
Yeah,
we think that they're fun. Tell us that you think it's fun. Hit subscribe on the YouTube video.
Because it's fun. Just subscribe.
I told you to. We'll
see
you next time. Have a fantastic day. Like the button.
God bless.